So today we are here in North Idaho, and I keep getting asked questions about, is now a good time to buy? So today we're going to talk a little bit about, should I buy now or wait? And so this episode is going to talk about a few of the pros and cons of maybe buying now and what it would look like if we waited for a bit and to see how things kind of play out. So I don't know that there's a real right or wrong answer, but let's talk about a few of those pros and cons, and let's get after it right now. Hi, if this is your first time to the channel, go ahead and subscribe below, tap the bell and subscribe so you can be notified every time we talk about anything going on up here in the North Idaho area. And I am Reed Wilson with Living North Idaho Life, and I have people reaching out every day to me and my team talking about or wanting to know about the North Idaho area. But one question keeps coming up: is now a good time to buy or should I wait? And we're going to talk a little bit about that here today because I think that's an important question. We're going to talk about a few of the pros and cons. You're probably wondering, is this a good time to make a move or should I be waiting? Here we are in the fall of 2024, and we got an election coming up in about a month. And so I think that's been on a lot of people's mind of, hey, we've seen a little bit of rate drop, but there hasn't been a big change. Economy is really hard right now. Everybody feels like they're struggling a little bit, but rent isn't any cheaper. And should we be thinking about making a move right now, or should we, stick it out where we're at? And so let's talk a little bit about that. Buy now or wait? There's a few questions that you probably ask yourself and not sure if the timing's right for right now. So let's take a look at that. Question number one: should I hold out for even lower mortgage rates? You could wait for rates to keep coming down, but a lot of other people will be doing that also. So keep that in mind. Waiting means you'll have to compete with other buyers to find your next home and higher prices. So I was just reading earlier this week that statistics say that there's about 1 million buyers that are ready to come out for about every 1% the rate drops. So that's a big influx. Another thing that you might think about is depending on the area. So an area like here in North Idaho, depending on how elections go, what kind of new policies are enacted, the big reasons people make the move here is one, changing quality of life, and another one is taxes. So if you're coming from some of those states with high taxes, a lot of oversight and rules and some of those things, North Idaho probably looks pretty good, and it's been a reason why it's been on your mind to get up where we have low taxes and some of those things. But is the time right with the way mortgage rates are? Well, right now we see in our market that most instances right now, because there's not a huge amount of inventory, is that buyers are still getting a lot of negotiation. They're able to come in and negotiate some closing costs. A lot of times they're able to negotiate rate buy downs and some of those things that could push you off, make things affordable, to push it off for a little better time when rates do come down. And without the competition, we just go back here 2-3 years when we had a lot of competition. People were waiving house inspections. They were, buyers were getting, or sellers, were getting, 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 or more offers at times. And if it wasn't cash, it was hard to negotiate. And anything in a VA or FHA was really hard because sellers were afraid of the inspections and the appraisals. So that is something of a concern when rates come down. It's just supply and demand. Pricing will go up. And so you may be thinking, well, I'm not quite sure if I know exactly where I want to live right now. Well, you may need to look at and say, okay, if I have to sell and pay a little bit of capital gains in a year to move to a different area, is that better off, or should I wait, pick the area, but I might have to pay an extra 10, 15, or 20,000? I can't answer that for you. So ultimately, as we talk through this, I can't tell you if now's the best time for you to buy. The best time for you to buy is when it makes sense for you financially and you feel good about it. But we'll keep talking about a few of these items here. Let's move on to question number 2. Is it better to wait until after the election? Well, history shows home prices typically go up year after a presidential election. So moving now might just be a little better bet. Let's look at the past history. This is what's happened. As we look back at some of these statistics here, that all except for 1 year, 7 out of the 8 years, presidential elections created an increase in home prices the following year. If we look at 92 to 93, a little under, 4,000 there, it looks like. 22 to 26, we've got about 6,400 and so on. As you can see, almost 10,000 in 2000, 2001. From 2004, 2005, boy, that was almost 25,000 right there, 26,000. 2008 to 2009, that's the year it went down, almost 20,000. But in 2000, of course, that was during that recession. So we saw a lot of things go down. 2012, 2013, the market started back up. 2016 and 17, 235 to 248. And then 2020 to 2021, even with the change in the economy, we did see pricing still continue to head up. So we did see values increase during that time also. Number 3, do I plan to live there for a while? So that is a big question, because you know what they say, if you buy a home, live in it 10 years, no matter what you paid for it, you look like you were a smart person, because we can show over time prices have always gone up, except for those few years there in the 2008 to 2010. But typically, even after that, if you bought your home in 2009 or 2008, anywhere, well, probably not right there, because it would start on the way down. But if you would have bought in that 2005 to 2008, when pricing really skyrocketed, well, come to 2015, you had equity again. So things did increase, and you looked smart. If you hung onto your home, a lot of people walked away from their homes because they saw the values that dropped so low, and they were worried about being stuck in the home or didn't want to pay on a home that was valued at less. But those who continued to stay in their home and waited it out not only saw the values come back, but saw an increased value over time, especially now versus then. So something to just kind of keep in mind, depending on how long you stay in it, will allow people to think how smart you are at that time. Now, if you're looking for something for a fix and flip, or you're looking at something, hey, I'm just wanting to get in, going to be there only 6 months or a year, probably renting is going to be the better option, just because who knows what's going to happen over that time period. The average homeowner gained about $25,000 in equity over the past year. So this has been a time where a lot of people have felt like our home prices have been depressed, and we've seen slow movement, but overall, nationwide, we have seen an increase in values. And so that will kind of help dictate a little bit what's going to happen coming up. But even seeing the increase in values at a time when things are slow, just think how much we're going to see if once these rates start coming down. I say if because there's no guarantee, but we have seen a little bit of a drop in rates. And so some would say that now is maybe the sweet spot. And a lot of times after sitting on the sidelines for a long time, the affordability challenges, to see if now is a time to buy. Maybe you wanted to buy here back over the past couple years, and because the rates went up, for those people that are outgrowing their home, maybe your family's grown and you're in a 3-bed, 2-bath, and you're wanting to move up to, a 4 or 5 bed and higher square footage. Well, that move up has been very hard. Up here, it's been that 600,000 to $1 million range that's really struggled, because face it, if you've got a 2 and 3% mortgage rate on your mortgage, and you're having to decide, do I go to a higher priced home at a 6 or 7% or higher? Most people are going to choose to stay in that home unless they really absolutely had to. So we've seen a lot of that. So a lot of those people, I think, as rates come down and it starts to become more affordable and they can justify that move, we're going to see a lot of those people coming off the sidelines. Just over half homeowners would be motivated to buy this year if mortgage rates drop below 6%. So that's a little bit of what we were talking about. That's a source by Bankrate. Like we talked about, as rates come down, people are going to come off the sidelines, and supply and demand is going to jump in. So prices will go up as people start buying and demand gets thinner. So that could change, kind of your thinking on some things and make things. Mortgage payments fall lower than rent in 22 of the 50 largest metros. And so, if you're in some of those areas with the new drop in rates, that may, have given you some motivation to do something. That's why we've still seen a lot of activity. That 600 to $1 million was that move up rate, and we saw a lot of people not moving there. But that 600 and lower, people could justify that, saying, okay, even with the higher rate, I can get into a home and my payment is not going to be a whole lot different than rent, and I'm actually able to own something versus rent it. Because if we're renting, we are paying 100% interest, but we don't have some of those other costs that are associated with that. So that's something to remember. So here's some of the cities. They're the bigger cities that they're allowing now. Now, we're not a big city up here, and so maybe that doesn't affect us so much as far as the mortgage payments and buying, but what it does do is a lot of these bigger cities are people that are selling. And so as the rates have made things more affordable for buyers in their area, they're able to sell, get a better price for and they're moving here into some of the other areas. But we do see a little bit of that influx here. So I want to talk about a few, we talked about a few of these items of the pros and cons. A few other pros might be potential for appreciation. So the home can appreciate over time, increasing your net worth. Stability, we talked about rent versus buying, and the stability owning your home. You always know what your payment's going to be. They're not going to raise your payment on it unless for some reason you got into an adjustable rate. Another one would be a tax benefit. You do get a tax benefit. Owning your own home, you're able to write off that interest. You're able to, and if it's an investment home, you get some additional tax write-offs there also. But we're not talking about that right now. We're just talking about just buying a home for yourself at this point. Another one would be building equity. So like we're saying, even over the course of this last year, where we have felt like with the rise in inflation and things have been tough, we still saw an average nationwide of $25,000 in equity overall in homes. So the other one is the long-term investment. Just, will provide you with some financial security. Those who have lived in their home a long time. I talk to clients all the time that are coming up that have had their homes for 20 years and longer, and some not even have to be that long, but where they've seen a big increase in values in their area. They've been able to sell, come up here, buy a home, and continue to have some of that money left in the bank and liquid for them to live and retire with. So there is the advantage of that. But we can't talk about all the pros without talking about some of the cons, because maybe now is not the best time for you to be buying a home. And maybe there is some other things we need to talk about, or we need to think about some of these other items. One would be the high costs of homes. Let's face it, everywhere we look, the price of homes have gone up, especially here in the North Idaho area. We have seen a huge increase in pricing over the last few years, and that's been tough. And not only did when we talk about high costs of the home, we also got to talk about the taxes, because taxes have gone up, and so that is something that you need to think about. Because of the higher cost of the home, it's going to take more money cash down to get into that home, and you're probably going to be limited, especially if rates come down and competition gets tough. If you're a first-time home buyer that is looking at an FHA, or maybe you're looking at a VA, when you get back into the busy influx of buyers, those programs unfortunately aren't looked at as aggressively as somebody that's putting a lot of money down on a conventional loan or all cash. And so a seller not having to look at or worry about the inspections, the appraisal, and financing is a huge concern, especially if they're a little bit concerned about their house being overvalued. So as you can imagine, that might make a difference. So just know the high costs of being in a home, your taxes, homeowners insurance, upkeep, all those things is real, that you didn't have to deal with when you were renting. Limited flexibility. If you buy a home, you're kind of stuck there. I mean, you could rent it out, that's true, but it's not like you can decide, hey, tomorrow, I mean, you could, but it kind of limits your ability to maybe change jobs and move to another town, or some of those things. I mean, you've got some responsibilities, you've got some commitments, and you're going to want to try to protect your credit, protect some of those things, but it does limit some of your flexibility for lifestyle changes. So that's just something to keep in mind. Unexpected expenses. We talked a little bit about the high costs. Owning a home, and anybody that's rented also understands there's unexpected expenses. Usually when you're renting, that's thrown onto the cost of the owner or the rental company. But when it's you, it's all you. If there's a problem with the roof, or your water heater goes out, or the furnace goes out, AC unit goes out, those are all costs that you have to come up with to take care of, to get it fixed and to get things back in line. So just know, and I'll guarantee it, the littlest thing, there'll be a leak in the water heater. All of a sudden your garbage disposal will go out at the most inopportune time. And so just know there are unexpected situations or expenses that pop up, and some of those can be emergency, where, hey, I got a leak in the roof, or I've got water coming in the basement, or wherever that may be, and it's not like I can wait till payday. We got to take care of it now. So those are something to keep in mind. Interest rates is another one. Interest rates are still a little bit high right now, so just knowing that buying into a home, and there is no guarantee that the rates are going to come down. We assume they will, we think they will, but if you buy in thinking, hey, I can bully through it, or kind of really push through it for the next 6 months to a year and wait for rates to come down where I can take the pressure off, that may never happen. And so that is definitely something to keep in mind. But anyway, just wanted to go over a few pros and cons. Should I buy now? Should I wait? That is a conversation that I'd love to have with you. Give me a call, shoot me a text. We can book a Zoom call if you want to talk about some of your concerns, what home ownership looks like. I have a great team of professionals. We can get you in touch with one of our preferred lenders, who can also go over figures with you and talk to you about what kind of rate you qualify for, what payment you're going to have and be comfortable with, what that looks like, and how much home you can afford, and talk about your finances. I don't talk about your finances, but they do. But I can certainly push you in the right direction, or if there's some specific questions about finances that you want to know how it relates to home, I'm happy to have that conversation. So keep us in mind. Call us, text us, book a Zoom call. We're here. Whether you're looking to move in 2 weeks or 2 years, we're never too busy for you. Would love to have that conversation, and we can't wait to see you on the next video. Thank you.